welcome back to another episode. I am pulling a card right now from, oh, my screen is blurred, but this is the Moonology deck in honor of the full moon coming up. When is it, Mary Beth? Is it
It's
tomorrow?
tomorrow. It'll be October 17th, at 7:26 Eastern
Okay.
AM.
Okay.
So it's
That's
right
away.
up upon us. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay, new moon in Gemini. Communication is key. Just try to hold that up.
Ooh, okay.
So communication.
I didn't realize Gemini was communication, but I
Mhm.
guess, right, is the planet that supports it, is that Mercury?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Hmm.
It's definitely communication's a tough one for me. I know that in my relationships, I was challenged by that. I'm talking about my marriage, my back in
Okay.
the day. But even like sometimes for me, it's hard to communicate or get across what I'm trying to say to people, and in a way that I feel like I'm maybe speaking a different language.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
There's so many different things that can come up when you start talking about communication. I feel like it's hard to know like what direction to go with this card. Um, hmm.
I think for me, what happens is I tend to shut down when things are going when things are getting challenging for me in a discussion or in a conversation with somebody, that I need to sort of take space and come back to it. So that's
Yeah.
what I've been doing lately is if I tend to feel like my head gets a little scrambled when emotions come up and then I'm supposed to be having a conversation with somebody and it's like the words aren't coming out right. If I take some space, that usually helps me.
Hmm.
I just need to like it's like almost like my processors in my head uh go on overload and I can't make sense of what I need to say like now.
Are you good at that? Are you good when you're in that type of situation at taking that break?
That's my go-to. That's my go-to even as a little kid. Like whenever I would think that I wasn't being heard or seen or treated well, I would like retreat to my room.
Yeah.
I would retreat to my room and I would take my time and my space and I would do a lot of self-soothing. So I think that's been my pattern all along. But then sometimes it takes me a while to get back into the conversation again. So I think that that's where I could like work on is not necessarily taking too much time, but also another thing that I had learned in counseling with my marriage counselor was you have to make sure that whoever, you're with is ready to have the same conversation, right? So both of you have to be ready for the conversation, not just one of you, which
Yeah.
is important.
I feel like for me, I'm like the opposite. When I was growing up, I was always really reactive in communication and like spitfiery. Right? And I remember studying nonviolent communication when I was like in high school. My older sister was into that. Have you ever read that book, Nonviolent Communication?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me. It really helped me understand like the interpretation of things too when it comes to communication, right? How you can say something, but someone might be hearing something else. Or if someone is saying something, are you hearing exactly what it is that they're saying? Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
It's complicated, which
It
makes
is very complicated.
right, which makes sense is why sometimes relationships can be so challenging because both people have to really show up
Yeah.
and be ready to have sometimes challenging conversations.
And then there's the whole thing about vulnerable communication. How vulnerable can you get with the people in your life? To share something like, I don't know, I don't know, to really share how you're feeling and what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Like, Mary Beth, you really hurt me the other day, by this thing that you did. I just want to talk about this. Like, can you have those conversations with people in your life? Can you be really just open and vulnerable? And are you the type of person that can hear those conversations, that communication coming at you, without taking it personal or trying to defend yourself? It's such a complicated, like you said.
Well, it makes me think again, I always like to bring it back to the spheres of wellness with
Yeah.
courage, right? That's a
Yeah.
vulnerability takes courage
Hmm.
and good communication takes presence.
Yeah. 100% presence.
Yeah. Like just carving out that time. I mean, I just think about, life and what gets thrown at us and how busy it is and how to even take time to slow down and have a conversation. It's not typically a thing people do,
Mm-mm.
on a regular basis. But I'm sure successful relationships figured it out.
Well, what's coming to me too right now is communication that we have with ourselves.
Mm. Ah, that's a good one.
Yeah. What are the things that you're saying to yourself on a daily basis, or what are the thoughts that are coming in? What are the stories that you're telling ourselves? I feel like, I don't know, I work a lot with the mind, right? Because I've had a very overactive mind. And this is why I resonate with Michael Singer so much, because I feel like my mind is always chatting with me. I'm like very hyper aware of the thoughts in my head since I was born, basically. Right. And and yeah, so just that chatter, it's like what it like it narrates your entire world for you, right? You know, I don't know. I'm getting my roof replaced in a couple days, and that's what I've been dealing with a lot today. Like just the narration, the of what's going to happen or what's not going to happen, and all these stories about it. But it's like, why is that even happening right now? What's the communication? My mental communication is going a little crazy.
That sounds like it would be exhausting after a while, is it?
It's
Like,
exhausting. And honestly, Mary Beth, this is why I have been dealing with chronic stress and chronic fatigue for most of my life. Like, right, with things like that, it's not something that just happens overnight or like, oh, I was stressed out about this event. Like for me, everything in my life was always so stressful because of the thoughts going on in my mind,
right.
about everything. And I think I told you guys one time too, like I would have this weird thought that like if something happened, like I got a C on a paper and then I couldn't be happy. So I would just like ruminate about that and talk about that for weeks, like not even just days, right? Weeks. And it's very exhausting and so stressful, obviously, right? My body was just like so stressed out and burnt out by that. So this has been my practice with, studying the energy of everything, connecting with the spheres of wellness, connecting with Michael Singer's talks and doing self-realization fellowship and, just understanding that I am not my thoughts. I don't have to identify with that conversation. I can like step back from behind it and just become the witness, become the conscious observer of it. Yeah.
And so
Anyways.
do you feel like it's been improving? Like, do you feel like you're getting a break from it with all of these tools?
Yes, definitely. But it's such a ingrained habit, right? Since this has been going on for 42 years, right? So it's hard to break those habits. So this is where we get to have compassion for ourselves and forgive ourselves and get back up and try again. It's the same thing in recovery, right? It's like we're all recovering from something. And I talk a lot about my addiction to alcohol, but then I also talk a lot about my addiction to the mind, to the thoughts. And so many of us do that without even really realizing that. We kind of go off in a storyline and then we're just kind of bouncing from one thing to the next in our mind and thoughts about things and what's going to happen. This shouldn't have happened. And why did that happen that way? And, I mean, yeah. So it's definitely a process. I'll say that. It's definitely gotten better. Um, and just being in groups like this, like we have, and being able to share my experience is so powerful. Because you never know, someone else might be listening to this resonating and like, oh wait, I have that voice in my head that talks a little bit too much too.
Right. Or just becoming
Yeah.
aware of it too. Right.
Aware, yeah.
Because I'm
Um,
sure there's more people walking around on this earth that are not aware of the voice in their head.
yeah, that's so true. I was always hyper aware of it. So I'm like, I was always shocked when people who aren't aware of it, because from the time I can remember, it's, yeah, it's just been insane. I remember when I was 7, I would literally be like, why? Like the voice in my head would be like, why am I me? Like, because I have a twin sister, right? I'd be like, why am I not Nikki? Like, why am I not consciously in her body? Why am I here? And I would get like anxiety about it. Like, I would start to feel the trappedness of the human body almost. But
Do
I
you
didn't
think is that a
really,
common twin thing, do you think?
I have no idea, actually. I
Hmm.
don't know. My mom is a twin, so I guess I could ask her if she had that experience, but I could even ask my twin sister if she had had that thought ever. But I just remember thinking it was weird. I'm like, why am I me? And then not even just her, like why are you in your experience, but I'm like here. I don't know. That was like a question that I had when I was like 7.
You were already on your spiritual path at 7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so paying attention, if you're listening to this right now, like thinking about your own communication, whether that's with someone else or even the thoughts to yourself, and how can you, like, what sphere of wellness do you need to tap into for your communication? It could
I
be a
love
good
it.
idea.
Perfect. All right. That's a nice way to wrap that one up, Jamie.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week for another card pull.